Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Phil, the famous show tune, New York, New York, has a line that says, you know, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. Granted, Scott Brown may not be as fiscally conservative, small government minded as we as libertarians would like, but if a conservative candidate can win in Massachusetts, can a more conservative candidate win anywhere? I mean, is that the way that it works?
Well, I certainly hope so, and I really do hope that the people are looking at candidates in a different way, because one of the problems we've had and why we have the problems we have in government is people have looked at the candidates and said, well, this guy is polished and has a great haircut and I'm going to vote for him. And the real citizen legislature, like we're running with Alex Snitker, kind of gets swept under the rug. And that's why we do have people that, we literally have people that have been in Congress for half of the time it's been in existence, and that needs to change if we're really going to change America.
Yeah, very, very well put. And I think, you know, the last candidate that people really want to vote for him for his haircut was probably John Edwards, right? Remember him with that real expensive haircut, and heavens knows we know how that ended up. So we'll leave that on that note. But you know, with this idea around you know, people wanting to vote for people that they feel share their some of their values, some of their concerns, or whatever, we got another graphic we're going to go ahead and put up around the Tea Party movement. You know, because this has been, you know, in the media and things, this has been the face of this, you know, backlash, if you will, against the expansion of government, the higher taxes that the current administration seems to be proposing at every level. And it has been an interesting movement to watch because in a lot of ways it is very, you know, unorganized. I mean, there's not clearly a clear leader, a clear figurehead. We've talked about even here in Jacksonville that there's multiple groups that have this Tea Party label. I guess they actually kind of moved towards some state of formalizing themselves by having a convention last week in Nashville where Sarah Palin spoke. But from where you survey the situation, Scott, you know, what do you see as the future of this Tea Party movement, and how do you think as libertarians that we can kind of tap into some of that sentiment that's coming out of that group?
I believe the Tea Party folks are the silent majority that have awakened. They are and are wanting to do something, and that something is to raise their voice in opposition to large government, raise their voice in opposition to government interference in the decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis. And this is where the Libertarian Party can tap into it, because we are the party of small government. We're the party of let us make our own decisions, get the government out of our lives as much as is possible. We are the party of allowing people to make their choice and stand by that choice. And this is where our various candidates, such as Alex Snitker, stand on that. Get the government out of our lives as much as possible. And that's what this Tea Party movement is all about.
Yeah, and it's kind of exciting to see, isn't it? I mean, I certainly know I've enjoyed watching it. You know, Phil, I was chatting with somebody who I guess you'd say has a leadership position in the local Tea Party movement, and I was asking the question, you know, that basically for me, I mean, it's great that the Tea Party has mobilized a lot of folks that are concerned about growth of government and increased taxes and all that kind of stuff. But my question to him was, while it's great to have people that are fired up because of recent events and it's on their radar screen, the more fundamental issue, and I think it's something for us as libertarians we talk about naturally, is, you know, if you're going to have a government that is positioned to provide something to everybody, by definition you're going to have a huge government that has a massive amount of taxes. And so my question to this guy from the Tea Party is, do you really find your activists, I mean, are they kind of stepping back and saying, you know, what is the role of government? What do we expect government to do in terms of services? You know, where does government's authority start and stop? Where does it end? I was asking him if he felt like his activists were starting to ask those kind of questions. To the extent you've been around the Tea Party folks, do you feel like that's starting to sink in, that maybe if you're going to have a government that does regulate and control everything, that somebody's actually got to pay for it?
It is. Actually, I was at a Tea Party in Gainesville last Saturday, and you know, all the Tea Party folks aren't straight up libertarians. A lot of them are moving that way. The great thing is they are being open to it. Some of them believe in government for this, but not for that. And the fact that they're worried about the fact that so much government growth is burdening us with debt, now it opens them towards, you know, it's not about whether this is good and government should do it, or this is bad and government shouldn't. It should be, what should government do at all? And if it's good, does that mean government should be involved? Why not let the free market do it? Because at the end of the day, lots of times the best things don't come from government. They come from regular people just trying to make a living.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I would even go further to say that unfortunately a lot of times government keeps those good things from actually rearing their head and actually becoming manifest in society.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. But
Well, we know that's your reputation. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, I know for one, I am just as pleased as punch to see this Tea Party movement out there, and as libertarians, we of course are going to be reaching an open hand to them and hopefully bringing them and to become active in the Libertarian Party. And certainly as a party, we're going to do whatever we can to move forward with that smaller government, lower tax type of a mantra, because that makes good sense for all of us.
It certainly does. Yeah. And I'm excited to see that starting to take place, and things are starting to happen. People are moving towards that.
Absolutely.
And we are, the Libertarian Party is the party that they're looking for. Rather than the other parties, the Republicrats, where they get into office and they become big government,
absolutely
pad
right.
their own, feather their own nest, so to speak.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, and I'm kind of smiling myself a little bit here, because we sometimes say, those of us who've been in the Libertarian Party for a while, that sometimes we feel like our greatest challenge as a party is to actually get libertarians to join the Libertarian Party. And it is the type of thing where the same independent-mindedness and sense of self-reliance and free-spiritedness that leads people to be libertarians, leads them to shy away a lot of times from structured type activities. I oftentimes will tell those folks, though, it's almost a form of self-defense. I mean, in terms of today's society, you've got to take a stand against government. You've got to stake out your freedom, because right now, the way the die is cast, it's for government to continue to increase in size and scope and power, and for the liberty of individuals to suffer as a result of that.
That's correct, and we have to make strides and go in the direction of, turn the direction around so that we can make incremental steps towards a smaller government. And so we have to back the candidates that will move us in that direction. For some, the candidate may not be perfect. This candidate A may not be perfect. Candidate B may not be perfect. But we cannot. But they're moving us in the libertarian direction, the small government, the constitutional direction.
Absolutely.
And we need to support those candidates and run as many candidates under the Libertarian banner as we can.
Well, and with that as a perfect lead-in, since you've mentioned his name several times, we've actually got an overhead that we're going to put up here around the upcoming Florida Senate race, which we are categorizing as Marco Rubio versus Alex Snitker. We've talked about Alex several times on this broadcast. We've mentioned him already several times just during today's show as well. And Scott Brown, posed in Cosmopolitan magazine, early on. I mean, I'm not sure if we're going to suggest that for Alex as part of his campaign or not, but this is going to be an issue-based campaign, right? We're going to focus on the issues. We've talked about the fact that mainstream Republicans have, underestimated the public anger over taxes and government growth. In fact, there's been a lot of Republicans who, as recently as 3-4 months ago, were basically saying that the only future for the Republican Party was to move more toward the middle and be bipartisan with the Democrats and agree with government, health care, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's certainly a significant part of the Republican Party that's focused on that, and hopefully they've learned their lesson a little bit with the Scott Brown victory and some of the Tea Party stuff. But Alex is a very interesting candidate. He's a former U.S. Marine. Some of his issues, the fair tax. He wants a balanced budget. Kind of interesting, as a Marine, he's strongly in favor of non-interventionist foreign policy. And I know that he's also in the 10th Amendment committee kind of group that really wants to reaffirm the fact that we do have a federal government of enumerated powers. What a concept. I mean, basically, there's a document that says what they're supposed to do and what things are not supposed to, and that people should actually pay attention to that. Right. Scott, from your perspective, and maybe to share with the people in this viewing audience, what makes Alex a compelling candidate, and why would you encourage people to learn more about him and his campaign?
I would encourage people to go to Snitker2010.com, throw that plug out, but to read more about him. But he is a candidate that, as you said, believes firmly in the Constitution. The Constitution and our founding fathers were in favor of a strong military, but they were not in favor of sending that military overseas. Except in the course of defending ourselves. Mm-hmm. He is definitely a 10th Amendment, because the Constitution enumerates what the federal government can do, and everything else that is not listed in the Constitution goes to the state or the people. Mm-hmm. Our politicians have forgotten that. Our politicians have forgotten that the Constitution is a founding document that governs, that allows us the freedoms to make choices on our own, and to have the free market, to have the capitalism, to give us the strength to allow the Yankee ingenuity that has come around to flourish. And Alex Snitker is a candidate that believes in term limits. He does not like career politicians. The Founding Fathers did not believe in career politicians.